Hey, I'm Kevin with Victory 4x4. Today we're going to be installing our strike rear bumper on this GX470. Okay, so our first step is going to be to remove the plastic bumper fascia. We're going to start in the wheel wells. Okay, so here in the wheel well we have three 10mm hex bolt heads to remove. There's two down here and one goes straight up into the rear fender flare. Okay, and now with the bolts removed from the wheel wells, we're going to get underneath, and then there's going to be one 10mm bolt head on each side going from the bumper brace up into the frame. Okay, so now we're going to open the rear door. Here on the right side you're going to have one 12mm bolt head to remove. Once that's removed, you can lift up the door stop and remove this plastic trim piece. This just has some factory clips, so go ahead and pull it right out and lift over that door stop mount. With that out of the way, you can go ahead and grab your pry tool and remove this clip here on the driver's side. Next, with your plastic trim out of the way, you're going to have four 10mm bolts to remove, and then your bumper fascia should come right off. Don't mind me, just removing two because these are already broken. Okay, so now that we have all our hardware removed, you can go ahead and come over to the side and just pull out on the bumper fascia right here at the wheel well. You're going to want to do that on both sides to just kind of release it from some of the factory clips there. And then come to the center, support it, and go ahead and pull straight back. Okay, so with your bumper fascia removed, you can go ahead and open your door back up and remove this foam. And if your GX is equipped with a hitch, you can go ahead and remove that now. If you have this style, it's going to be equipped with 4 bolts here on the rear face and 2 underneath. Okay, and with our hitch removed, now we can go ahead and get our bumper ready for install. Okay, so if you're going to be installing lights in your bumper, now's the time. Just a note before installing, you may have to flip your brackets depending on the lights and manufacturer you choose to get them to line up at the right height. Okay, so now you'll go ahead and get your light where you think it needs to be, as close as you can, and then we can finalize adjustment once the bumper's installed. Okay, so next with your 10mm socket, you're going to need to remove these 2 plastic bumper mounting brackets. Okay, and with those out of the way, you can go ahead and come in here with a utility knife or something similar and just make a cut. You're removing this lower plastic piece, so just under your flare. And with that out of the way, you're going to want to do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so now with the help of a friend, you can go ahead and slide your bumper up in place. And then put at least 1 or 2 bolts in loosely just to hold it up in place. Next, you're going to want to apply just a little bit of anti-seize lubricant, and then you can go ahead and begin installing these 4 and the bottom 2 bolts. Next, you'll be installing the bolts in the lower frame rail. It's It's going to be 2 per side, and these will be the same M12 hardware as what you used on the rear of the bumper. All right, so next you're going to be installing these wing braces. The tapered end of this wing brace is going to face toward the front of the vehicle, just like this. Okay, and when installing this bolt into the side of the frame brace, you're going to need to reach through the back side to install the nut. Now working out here on the bumper end of this brace, you're going to need to install 3 bolts, 1 here on the inside, and the other 2 will drop down from the top. So the last part of installing this wing, you're going to need to drill a hole in the factory frame rail on the bottom side using the bracket as a guide. This is going to be a 5/16 hole. Okay, and now that we have our hole drilled in the frame, you can go ahead and install your 3/8 self-tapping bolt supplied with the bumper. Now we can go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. Okay, and in order to drill the hole on the passenger side, you're going to need to move your exhaust. So we're going to go ahead and remove it from this isolator. And that should allow you plenty of room to drill that hole. Now we're going to install our 3/8 self-tapping bolt into that hole, and then you can reinstall your exhaust into the hanger. Okay, now we can go ahead and tighten up all our hardware. We're going to snug everything up and then come back and tighten all these M12 bolts to 60 foot-pounds. Okay, now with all this hardware torqued down, we can go ahead and install our logo cover plate. And now we can go ahead and tighten these down with a 3/16 Allen socket. Okay, so at this point, in order to reinstall our plastic body to bumper trim, we're going to need to make some minor modifications. Starting with the removal of these small plastic clips on the rear edge of the trim. I'm going to be using an air saw. You could probably use a razor blade or something equivalent. Okay, now we can go ahead and reinstall this plastic trim. We're going to be reusing the factory center mounting hole. So the first thing you need to do is just kind of put it up here in place where it's going to be. And then from the underside, we're going to go in with a smaller drill bit and drill a pilot hole that marks this center location. So here I'm drilling up through this hole with a smaller bit to locate my bolt hole at the top. Okay, so now that you have your pilot hole drilled, we're going to go ahead and remove this plastic piece. And using a little bit larger drill bit, we'll open up that hole. Now with that hole opened up, you can install your longer button head bolt and your plastic spacer on the back. And then reinstall the plastic trim and bolt it down in place. Now with your plastic trim in place, you can go ahead and reinstall your door stop. Okay, so at this point, if you're going to be installing a carrier, go ahead and watch our adventure carrier video. If not, we're going to be installing these black plastic caps using a little bit of RTV sealant to protect the carrier sleeve so that you can install one later. Okay, so at this point, you can go ahead and double check all your hardware is tight, wire in your lights, and then you'll be all set. If you have any questions, email us at info@victory4x4.com or give us a call at 269-459-8447.